Morning, everyone, and welcome to the last day of the conference. Yay! Thanks for joining the session, Lost in Translation, the Unspoken Challenges Faced by International Students in the U.S. Our presenter, Julie Moreno, has over 25 years of experience in the financial aid industry. Prior to joining MPOWER, she was account manager, campus relations with Common Bond Student Lending. Prior to Common Bond, she has several business development positions at Elm, MedInvest, GradInvest, North Star, THE, PNC Bank, and Terry. In addition to her student lending experience, Julie also has extensive financial aid experience, having acted as the director of financial aid at several San Francisco Bay Area schools. She earned her bachelor's and master's degrees from Stanford University, and in her free time, she enjoys flamenco dance, sewing, cooking, and shoe shopping. Please welcome Julie Moreno.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Joni, for that great introduction. And I can't believe that the conference is almost over.
I know.
Like it goes by so fast. Anyway, well, thanks again for joining me this morning, first session of the day, I think, breakout session. And what I wanted to talk today about are just kind of the challenges that international students face when they come to the US, and just a little bit about MPOWER, the company. That's all that we do, is we provide private student loans for international students without them needing a cosigner. So a lot of this session is informed by our work. A lot of the people, most of the people who work in our company have been international students in the US. So there's a lot of information that I have at my fingertips to be able to put this kind of a session together and to get some firsthand information. And since you all are working with international students too, what I wanted to do is try to make this a little bit interactive. There are some options in here for talking multiple choice kind of questions to kind of get us thinking. I know it's early, but nothing too horrible. So here's the first question. Where do you think most international students come from? So feel free to answer in the chat. Okay, I see how this is working now. Okay, number 3, twos, number 1. Okay, great. So the answer is really number 3. So it's a diverse group. Let's see if I can getting the controls down here. And this is just a panorama from 2015 up until most recently 2019, 2020 of where international students come from. And you can see from these charts, the majority continue to come from China and India. Other Asian countries, that's a growing market. And we're also seeing that there's a growing market coming from the continent of Africa. Nigeria is another country on the continent of Africa where we're seeing more enrollment. Also Latin America, that's another continent where we've been seeing more growth. I know just kind of in monitoring, chats on, on social media, that Brazil is another country in Latin America where we're seeing a growing population of international students coming to the United States. So there's a major economic impact for the United States in bringing international students here. It's estimated that's $45 billion impact to our economy, support for over 400,000 jobs. Now there are more people here, more people on campus utilizing resources, needing to buy things. They do, in a lot of cases, provide an additional subsidy to the universities because they aren't really able to get any type of scholarships. I know some universities offer some scholarships. We have a scholarship program. They can use private scholarships. But there is they do contribute a fair amount to the economy of the university itself. An export for U.S. companies as well, so they can go back to their home country and possibly get a job with an American company that could be based in that country. in our company, for example, we have a office in India, not an office anymore because of the pandemic, but we have a lot of jobs over there. And many of those people who are in managerial roles got their masters in, business and their MBAs here in the United States. So they're actually working in their home countries, but supporting American companies. So that was an interesting twist that I didn't learn about until I moved over to MPOWER. So this is just a quote from the former US ambassador about international education and this idea of a soft power export. And I'm not going to kind of read this out. I'll let you read it yourself, but just support from this UN ambassador talking about ways in which international students do kind of complete this picture here for our economy and also have a global presence. So another question for you, what challenges do international students face when they come to the United States to study? So feel free to answer this question in the chat. Okay, I told you it wouldn't be too hard, right? Okay, so academics are often the biggest challenge that international students face. The schools overseas may have different kinds of teaching methods. They may have, in other countries, they might have more of a Socratic method, or they may have a method where the teacher is more revered. It may be recitation that is valued as opposed to critical thinking and asking questions. Maybe in some countries, it's not polite to ask, questions of your professors. So it could be that they've learned in a different type of environment, deadlines. I know working on one of my campuses with a group of Russian students, they all got together as a group to do a project, and it was really meant to be an individual project. So it was kind of rethinking how they're thinking. So kind of putting ourselves in their shoes to be able to explain expectations for these students. Also, some language issues can, that seems like a more obvious one, but hurt their ability to understand things. And I know just kind of from my personal experience, again, in our company, there are differences in British English versus, the English that we speak here in the United States. So that also, if someone is fluent in English, but they've learned it overseas, that may be an issue for them when they come to your campus. And it also could, hinder the ability to work with peers. So kind of that whole milieu of what they're experiencing before they've come to your campus. And I think I actually asked some people in my company who had been international students in the United States. And this is kind of one of the first things that they talked about, moving away at a young age, especially in countries where, maybe it's customary to be living with your family until you get married, until you're in your 20s or your 30s. So, you've got this familial support, and you move to another country, and it can be a very isolating experience. If you've got the language issues, that can kind of add on to that, because it would be a little bit more difficult to make friends, that kind of thing. And then I heard from a few other people that this is in the minority, though, maybe a little bit opposite. Some people were looking forward to the experience because it meant that they could kind of a sanctioned way to break out of this family unit. They could actually go and be on their own for a little while and break out of that, but it was for their education. So that was an approved or a sanctioned way to go out and be on your own. And then there's been a lot of discussion just kind of in our company, again, because we work mainly with international students, and how we word even things like our brochures or messages on our website about this. The US is a very individualistic culture, and it's not the same in other cultures. So trying to create messaging that addresses that. So I'm just kind of giving our experiences, knowing that you all deal with international students as well. But this may be one of the things that I heard about the most when I talked to folks in my company who had been international students in the US, and you might see this with your students. So this is kind of an open question as opposed to a multiple choice. And again, you can feel free to type this in the chat. Maybe we can read these at the end of the session. But what are there some things that your school has done for international students that you thought maybe was successful for them in kind of helping them to get through this culture shock and get more acclimated to your campus? And then maybe we, again, can share these at the end of the session so we can have like a little idea bank for people. And here are just some suggestions that we've seen. Certainly cultural nights or cultural events. A lot of times we're seeing these things. I think Diwali is coming up. They're sponsored by the student association, so participating in those. We've seen buddy programs be successful, where they've got a mentor, somebody on campus where they're paired with to help, show them the ropes and show them where things are on campus. Again, mentioned the international student groups. Maybe an orientation. And just in my research, I've looked at other different websites on different schools' websites, and I've seen some provide a lot of information about what these students can expect prior to coming. And hopefully they're reading that, but I thought that there were some great web pages out there from other institutions that really address that, what they expect when they land on the ground and try to get to campus, and what they just even protocol of coming into an office and asking questions on campus. So we're really good at sharing our knowledge here in financial aid as well. But if you're looking for ways, one of the things that I've always done is look to my peers in financial aid. I've looked at international student support offices, those web pages at other universities, and just kind of looked at what they do, how they're doing it, and then how they're addressing kind of this moment when students are arriving and coming into a new country and experiencing our culture for the first time. And then another idea is tailoring the recruitment advice that you give students. And I think that's probably something more admissions related, but sometimes, like in my experience as a financial aid administrator, a lot of times I worked conjointly with admissions. Okay, so another multiple choice. So how do international students pay for school? So we've got a few options there. An answer in the chat. Great, thanks. So it's mixed, actually. Usually the majority of the funds come from personal and family savings, and that might be a little bit of a misnomer. This is something that I've learned. I've only been at MPOWER since the end of May, so I've been learning a lot about this sector. There are these home country loans, so loans that students and the family can apply for in their home country, and it's not always clear that that's as part of their savings. It's actually maybe a loan. They name it as part of their savings, but it may actually be a loan that they've applied for with their family. So usually no federal or private student loans, because with most of the US lenders, they need a cosigner. But usually this is how the majority of the students are paying for it. The university does, that's the second highest. So 17% provided by universities, maybe an employer sponsorship, and then, maybe a government sponsorship, and then just kind of another category. So in looking at students from India, and this is where the majority of our borrowers come from, so this is where we have the most experience, is that a third of the international students get what's called a property-backed loan. So it's a loan where the actual families, the collateral for that loan is their home or property that they might own. And the average size of that loan is $60,000. And that's usually indicated, on their I-20 as personal and family savings. But there's kind of a danger with these loans, and you can see there are a lot of fees that are involved with them, higher fees, and also co-signers required definitely for it, and the collateral that the family may have. And you can see with this chart, the blue bars are meant to show what the average percentage rate is. And these are 3 different countries that offer these types of loans to students and families. So this is just a snapshot and just showing how expensive these loans can be for students. So there's another component here of pressure on the student to, when they do come, that their family has, tied up maybe the property into one of these kinds of loans if they're using that as a means to finance the education. So, being successful when they come to the US in school means that they'll be able to get a job and that their family can repay this loan. So it's just another area where they may be experiencing some stress in the background for them to perform on campus at your institution. We touched on this a little bit, but can international students get federal student loans from our US program? So if you want to answer in the chat. And there was a comment pointed out from Betty, hi Betty, that students, families of the students do pull together to pool money. That's another resource that they use. So that's a great point. Thanks, Betty, for that.
You're welcome.
Well, the answer to this one is that it just depends. So there are some exceptions and special circumstances, and these are the exceptions, but overall, usually most international students can't get federal loans. And then the issue with getting private student loans from private student lenders is they're required to have a cosigner in the US. And when they arrive here, they don't know anyone usually, and they don't really have someone on hand that they can, ask to have a cosigner. Also, we're seeing, I saw this with my graduate students as well when I was a financial aid counselor. A lot of the students really don't want to get a cosigner, even if it means that they can get a lower interest rate. They want to be able to do it on their own. And this presents a challenge for students if they're in that mindset of wanting to do it on their own. So these are some lenders who offer, a few of them who offer loans to international students with a cosigner. And we offer loans without a cosigner. So that's our bread and butter to students. We've got an algorithm. We look at their future earnings. There's another company called Prodigy that also provides loans to international students without a cosigner. So there are some options for students if you're speaking with international students and they aren't able to borrow from one of these lenders because they don't have a cosigner, or they don't know someone who can be. Our company or the other option, Prodigy. Those are the only 2 that I know who offer a private loan to international students without needing a cosigner. So these are just some suggestions about helping international students with financing their education. I think probably one of the more critical ones of this is working with the admissions officers, because that's the group who's going to be seeing these students first, usually. They're reaching out. I know some schools even have outreach that goes into specific countries. They've got, folks on the ground in specific countries. Or now, I think with COVID, a lot of this is happening virtually, but partnering with the admissions again, because they're the people who work with these students the first contact really. But these are just, like I mentioned, options on the website for students, awareness of options and risks. With loans, any kind of loan, there's the risk, right? We don't want our students to default, but making them aware of the options, just like as you would do normally with, your other students as well. Okay, any questions? I guess I'm going to look in the chat to see if anybody has written anything about what they've done on their campus that they felt would be helpful for to share with everybody else about helping international students to acclimate to the US or to their campus. All right, so someone wrote in one thing that we can do is to help them get their social security number and set up a bank account so that they can work on campus. I was under the impression that international students could work on campus. There are restrictions, of course, about the number of hours, but I thought they didn't need the social security number, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Then someone offers, does Nerd Wallet offer loans to US students without a cosigner as well, or is it just to international? So Nerd Wallet is actually one of those informational websites or companies that just provides advice and information about different products. So they're not actually a lender. So our company, MPOWER, is a lender that offers loans without needing a cosigner. The other one I mentioned is Prodigy. And then the other player, the other US-based lenders that we all are familiar with, they do offer loans, but with a US permanent or US citizen or permanent resident cosigner. So could anybody weigh in on the question about needing a social security number to work on campus? Again, I was under the impression that international students were allowed to work on campus. Hours are limited, but I didn't think that they needed a social security number. But again, I could be wrong. Okay, well, I can look that one up and I can put it in. Right. In order to get paid, they need a TIN, an SSN. Okay. All right. So it seems that the social security number is a requirement. And for taxes. Okay. Yeah. So the consensus here is that they're needing a social security number to be able to work on campus. And, sometimes they will go to graduate school. They'll work here for either maybe sponsored by an employer to get a green card. They may just work here on a visa for a little while. So, once they've got the social security number, that's one step that they've taken care of. So that can definitely help them. So there's another question. Does MPOWER also offer loans to domestic students or only to international students? Thank you, Erin, for that. We do offer loans to domestic students are eligible to apply for our loans, but the interest rates and the fees are geared more to the international student market, because we're offering loans without collateral, without a cosigner. So there's a fee and the interest rates are different. We do have a partnership with Sallie Mae. So if we see a domestic student apply with us, we encourage them to apply with Sallie Mae because we know that they can get a lower interest rate and a 0% fee loan. So we do refer domestic students to another lender just because we know that they can get a better deal with one of the US-based lenders. And we do domestic students, we do offer to DACA students because they don't they aren't usually able to get federal loans. So we would be able to offer our loans to DACA students. Okay, I'm trying to keep up with the chat here. And yeah, so this is a great question. Does MPOWER have customer service representatives that speak a variety of languages? Yes, I'm a little intimidated by the other people in the company, especially in regards to India, where they speak a diverse amount of languages. And there's someone on who works in our company who speaks that language. So again, there's the British English, which is a little bit different. They can speak that with our students, our borrowers, and then they can also speak the native languages native to India. We have folks who speak Mandarin and Cantonese, Spanish, Russian. Yeah, so you name it, there's somebody at our company who can speak that language.
Someone had asked, does the school need to sign up as a participating school for international students to apply for MPOWER financing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we do have a list of schools that we have gone through and approved to be able to start. Even the program's been around since 2014, but we do have a list of schools that we've looked at default rates of the school to just kind of monitor what the repayment would look like. And then we are adding schools as we go along, because things change, default rates change and improve. So if someone's interested, they could reach out to me, and then I would be able to look up and see if they're eligible. And then we would look at some information. We would request, it's not a lot, but we would request some information from the school. Any other questions? I'm looking in the chat. Well, there's my contact info on the screen. And if anybody has any questions off, line that come up after the session or anytime else, please feel free to reach out. Yeah, thank you everyone for attending. And it was great to present with you and to share this information with you. So again, if you have any questions or need any more information, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Julie. Everyone, don't forget to complete the session survey. All the presenters appreciate your feedback. Also, don't forget to support our charity, Feeding America, Feeding PA, and visit the exhibitors on this break that you have coming up. And thanks again, Julie. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great break.